Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks.
Welcome back to Scary Bear Attacks. Today's episode takes us to a island just off the coast of Alaska, near a creek called Fort Arm. The streams here are packed with 80,000 migrating coho salmon seasonally, making their way upstream to ensure the success of their species by laying eggs in gravel beds to start the next generation. Alder and willow bushes nearly completely screen the banks along the creeks and streams where salmon are depositing their eggs, and beautiful flowers like fireweed, forget-me-nots, and the small flower paintbrush create an artistic tapestry that only God could design. According to the Fish and Game website, there are no moose on Oak Island, but there are Sitka black-tailed deer and Roosevelt elk, the latter of which are the standard population all along the northern portion of the west coast of North America. The king of the ecosystem in most places is the largest predator there, and in this case, it is the coastal brown bear. On August 19, 2021, around 5 p.m., 31-year-old Sitka resident Jess Coltharp was doing what he liked doing most, his job. They say if you do something you enjoy, you'll never have to work a day in your life, and Jess's life bore that axiom out each day. Jess was a vessel captain in his 14th year with the Alaska Fish and Game surveying streams, counting salmon. This gives the government agency a projection of just how many salmon are returning from the ocean to spawn and can influence future fishing seasons and regulations. It is important work, but not without its risks, as the surveyors have to walk through prime brown bear habitat and get very near to the bear's food source. Coltharp indicated that he has encounters with bears somewhere between 80 and 90 times each season, with only a small portion of those being at close range. Run that out over his tenure, and you can easily see how he has run into about 1,000 brown bears over the years. Given that brown bear attacks have a statistical rhythm to them, and you can easily see how the numbers are against a person never having a dangerous encounter, leading to injury or death. These odds are just about to catch up with Jess in a terrifying way. On the day in question, the men encountered 4 or 5 brown bears on their way to their destination. The bears did the typical thing and hurried along their way, never to be seen again. The area the surveyors were headed to is a lake stream, which means that the stream emptied into a lake eventually. This sort of bottlenecks the bears, as they would typically spread out along a longer riverbank and tend to have more room to catch the fish they desire to eat. After spending their workday tallying up the fish in one stream, Coltharp and a volunteer named Ethan Christensen met up with boat deckhand Anthony Wallach. Coltharp and Wallach had grown up hunting and fishing, so being in this terrain and environment was nothing new to them. The location was a few hours by boat north of Sitka, but the term a few hours in Alaska could mean a very isolated location. Now, Jess and Wallach were both carrying Remington Model 870 12-gauge pump shotguns. These powerful firearms are standard issue to Alaska Fish and Game employees while doing field work. They were loaded with a devastating shell of Brennecke slugs for ammunition. In addition to the shotguns, the state of Alaska also trains its employees on wilderness safety and firearms training. Jess and Wallach both regularly trained at the gun range to be proficient and effective with the firearms they were issued. As the men headed back to their boat stashed a short distance from the creek, the men were laughing and talking. Coltharp was leading the way when the salmonberry bushes near them began to rustle. Coltharp recalls turning his head to chat with his companions when all hell broke loose. He could hear the brush popping and the unmistakable cacophony of a bear charge. The brush was too thick to see exactly where it was, but the bear emerged from only about 20 feet away, charging at him at full speed. The bear's body was pressed closely to the ground, and its claws dug into the soil to propel it toward Jess and the other men. In his past experiences, brown bears gave a good warning that they were in the area by popping their jaws and woofing. This was not the typical charge, as this bear gave no warning, no woofs, and no jaw pops. It simply powered its way through the brush, largely unencumbered by anything in its path. Given the proximity of the attack, Coltharp had just enough time to swing his firearm from his shoulder and open the action in an attempt to chamber a round. This effort was an exercise in futility because the bear covered the short distance before he was anywhere near ready to defend himself. The only reaction he could muster was to swing his torso to the side, hoping that Wallach was ready to fire the shotgun he was carrying. As Ethan dove for cover, Wallach's shooting lane opened up. Unfortunately for Jess, the bear was quicker than any of the men's reactions, and it locked its massive jaws onto his right knee and slammed him to the ground onto his back. It then began violently shaking him from side to side, tearing his flesh and digging its teeth all the way to his bones. Jess managed to do the only thing he could do, which was to yell, "Shoot it! Shoot it!" Shoot it!" repeatedly to his companions. Wallach was only about 5 yards behind Jess, and as the bear rushed his partner, he aimed his shotgun and had only a fraction of a second to consider the safety of this shot. He fired and the bear rolled off of Jess. Just for good measure, Wallach pumped 2 more shots of lead pacification into the bear just to make sure it met its angels. Jess indicated that as soon as the first shot from the shotgun tore its destructive path, the bear released its grip on his knee. The terror and violence of the attack had the men glancing back and forth at each other, eyes widened with adrenaline. Jess immediately began to feel a state of shock set in, and his mind began to blur to escape the pain and fear. The frightening attack had left him confused and suffering, completely devoid of any way to comprehend the preceding events. Jess quickly jumped back to his feet, though, with the pain of his wounds numbed briefly by the adrenaline. He managed to stammer out a congratulatory, "Nice shot, thanks for saving my life," to Wallach. Hearing Jess's voice and seeing him standing on his feet brought a sense of peace, and his smile reassured his companions that he was all right, despite his terrible injuries. It only took a few seconds for Jess to feel the warm blood trickling down his leg, cooling his flesh. He was severely injured, and that reality set in on the men. They began to work up a rescue plan and placed a tourniquet on Jess's leg to staunch the bleeding. They retrieved their satellite phone from their backpacks and relayed the details to their boss, who arranged for a float plane to meet them only a half a mile away. As his partners watched Jess limp around the hill toward the pickup location, he couldn't help but reflect on the indelible impact this event would have on his life. He would not be forgetting this incident any time soon, if ever. Jess asked Wallach to take his photo as he rested on a log, giving the thumbs-up gesture, and his photo made the front page of the newspaper, the Sitka Sentinel. This and other images of the attack are too graphic to be viewed on YouTube and can be viewed by accessing the Patreon link below this video. Warning, they are graphic, and there is a dead bear there, so just so you know. To Jess, the picture relayed a message that there was no reason to freak out and to keep your spirits up no matter what circumstances you're in. Upon examination, the male brown bear stood around 7 feet tall and weighed around 500 pounds. Its canine teeth that dug into Jess's knee measured at 3 inches long. Fortune was on Jess's side that day, as Wallach had recently completed EMT training with the Sitka Fire Department and was quick to apply his newfound knowledge. His quick thinking not only saved Jess's life that day, but prevented his injuries from being as bad as they could have been. The men made it back to the pickup site with a float plane, and Jess was admitted to the Mount Edgecombe Medical Center for about a 2-hour visit to stabilize and treat his injuries. The next morning, he underwent a surgery to clean up the tissues around the wounds, and then he was flown to Anchorage to be seen by another doctor. That is when they stitched it up, as well as reconnected part of his quadriceps tendon running from his patella to his tibia. He completed several weeks of physical rehabilitation before he fully recovered for deer season in a few short months. Jess continually expresses thanks for his friend for his quick reactions that saved him from further injury or even death. He states that Wallach will never have to pay for his own drinks when Jess is around ever again. He continues, "I definitely owe that guy a lot, so he'll be reaping the benefits of that for quite a while." Wallach is quoted as saying, "If you're going camping or hiking, have your safety gear with you, and if you have safety gear, know how to use it properly and practice with it." Jess concludes with a statement discussing how people don't think that there's a bear ready to pounce on them each time they enter the woods, even though that is what happened to him. He states that being prepared for a confrontation is the most important aspect of traveling through bear country. No matter how many times you've traveled a trail, comfort can lead you to calamity. The worst thing that I've seen in all the facts and pictures of this story is that Jess is a Green Bay Packers fan. I could have sworn his favorite team was the Bears. After reviewing the facts surrounding this case, I'm left with a few questions that I would like to discuss with you. Do you think that the bear was guarding a carcass nearby, or that the bear was sleeping and the men surprised it? Was this attack a predatory attack? Would bear spray have prevented this bear attack? I will enjoy reading your comments, so please post yours in the comment section below and let's talk about it.
Thank you for watching Scary Bear Attacks. If you've enjoyed this episode, please consider clicking on the like button and clicking on the bell icon. We'll help you know when we post our new episodes. Posting our video links to your social media profiles furthers awareness, and it's fun. We slashed our prices in our merch store, linked below, so check out the bargains there while you shop. As a member of our human community, remember to adventure bravely and be careful out there, especially in bear country.